Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Talking Sports with Evan. I am your host, Evan Witalison, and I want to thank you for spending some time watching or listening to this week's Talking Sports with Evan. There's March Madness is underway between the NCAA tournaments, brackets, and stuff have been put out last on Sunday in Division One men's and women's basketball. That action is starting right now. Um, Not just the NCAA is having March Madness, though, as the NFL Free Agency March Madness is kicking in as teams are scrambling to get under the NFL salary cap of 208 million by tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central Time, the start of the new league year. On top of that, free agent deals are being negotiated as we're in the legal tampering period in the NFL before contracts and trades can become official. And Deshaun Watson, who the grand jury decided not to indict, citing that they did not have enough evidence to indict. His civil suits are not yet settled, but teams are frantically trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. So lots of NFL action and news to talk about as well. And baseball. Free agency in baseball is underway, and the Brewers have made a signing as well. I'm going to give my thoughts on that signing in a little bit. But before I do go any further, you know, the I don't know how my followers and my listeners feel about professional wrestling, but I was a big professional wrestling fan in the 90s. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it. And one of the things that I enjoyed was the Monday Night Wars between WCW and at WWF at the time, now WWE. And the likes of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Hollywood Hogan and DX and Austin and The Rock, Undertaker, to name a few, were big to do every Monday night. A lot of people, including myself, had to be in front of our screen to see what was going to happen next, who was going to jump ship next. We even saw, because WWF at the time, um, every other Raw was taped. So the episode of Raw that was taped, Rick Rude appeared on both Raw and Nitro on the exact same night. Uh, Shows up with DX and then shows up on Nitro as well as he jumped ship to WCW. But Scott Hall was one guy that very entertaining. Razor Ramon back before he jumped to WCW, very entertaining, fun to watch. Had his demons, fought through them, and he unfortunately passed away officially last night after being placed on life support over the weekend. And condolences to Scott Hall and his family and his friends and former wrestling buddies who he competed with. And he's a guy that, like I mentioned, he had his demons. He had his demons of alcohol and other drugs, as a lot of professional wrestlers do, as they just completely destroy their bodies to put on an entertainment for us to watch. Um, he was one that was an inspiration to fight through those demons and get to a place to where he was, and then unfortunately suffered multiple heart attacks after a hip surgery, and he unfortunately passed. And like I mentioned, I just want to give my condolences to those that enjoyed and those that knew Scott Hall. So moving on. Big news of the day. I talked about it last week when I did my show. I think it was Thursday night last week. Aaron Rodgers last Tuesday, a week ago today, said that he would be returning to Green Bay. He made his decision. He was going to be returning to the Packers, and he'll be playing 2022 in Green Bay. He allegedly agreed upon a new contract. All the numbers that came out a week ago were not correct. They were wrong. And today, and this is kind of what I've been stressing. If you follow me on Twitter at Evan Witt Sports, you see my username in the bottom corner of the screen over here. Talking sports with Evan at Evan Witt Sports. I mean, that the deal was going to be announced when it was time to announce it. The Packers had a plan in place since before the season ended on how they were going to approach the offseason. Yes, they had 40-something million dollars over the cap they had to work on to get under. A lot of moves they had to do, put the franchise tag on Devontae, other stuff they had to get done. And the core of all of that was Aaron Rodgers. Because he had a $46 million, I believe, a $42 million cap hit initially in 2022. No way the Packers could work with that. When he decided to play in 2021, I said he was either going to be gone in Green Bay or be under a new contract, because there was no way he was going to be a Packer under that contract. But they put a new contract in place, and he agreed to it today. And I'm sure it was agreed upon a while ago, but from what I had read, Packers doctors and trainers were out in California to do the physical piece of it over the weekend, and that had to get finalized before the deal could officially become official. But the first read is 150.815 over the next 3 years, and the first 2 years of the contract are fully guaranteed. So his contract is going to pay him $42 million in 2022, 59.515 in 2023, and 49.3 in 2024. And at first glance, and this I saw a lot of people freaking out about on Twitter and Facebook, is how does this help the Packers salary cap situation? Well, here's the thing. He's going to earn $74.5 million in the first 2 years, and 62 average through second year. But his salary cap hit, and his number, that's the big thing. His salary cap number was decreased by 18 million, and he is now counting against the cap go to over the cap, and he is now counting 28 million against the cap. Much more manageable to work with if you're the Packers. They basically just have one to two more moves they have to do to get the cap under the cap, and then they have some other moves they can do to make money work to potentially bring new people in, potential free agents. It can be done, and it's exactly kind of what I expected. Rodgers is basically committed to playing in Green Bay for the next 2 years. If he does this, there's 2 dummy years added. So if he wants to play past 2024, per Ian Rappaport, they're going to have to redo 2024 and 2025. Yeah, there's going to be a big cap hit potentially. Like if he decides to hang it up after 2023, there's going to be a big cap hit hitting the Packers. But fortunately for Green Bay, the salary cap is projected to shoot up in 2023, 2024. Keeping Rodgers is key, and they are keeping him. And if you want a comparison to what the Packers just did with Rodgers, think of what the Saints did with Drew Brees before he retired. Kept manipulating the contract in a way that is going to lower the cap hit, but keep lower the cap hit, keep him in town, and allow them to re-sign guys and potentially bring in new guys. And re-signing your own guys is as good, if not better, than bringing in guys off the street. Because the guys you're keeping, and I'll get to those in a minute, are guys that have spent time in your system, in your team, guys you've seen up close and personal for a number of years. You're going to feel more comfortable with them on the field over somebody that you may not know. So I guess for those watching, those listening, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' contract. I personally like it. I thought it was smart. I thought it was a good deal. They get a lot from it, and they can keep the team, basically, with a few exceptions, keep the team together at least for the next 2 years. Other things the Packers have done is they extended Preston Smith, a new contract for him, which his cap hit got lowered to 11 in 2022. and it's definitely helping the Packers salary cap quite a bit. They released Zadarius Smith, which I expected to happen. I know some people would prefer to keep Zadarius Smith over Preston Smith, but the big difference between Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith is Zadarius Smith is coming off a pretty major back injury that limited him to a handful of snaps in week 1 and a handful of snaps in the NFC divisional round. Preston Smith has missed 1 game in his entire career in the NFL. He's also better on the edge against the run. You're locking up and securing Preston Smith because he is going to be available every day. That's going to happen, and you can't afford to let him leave that room. Other moves they released Billy Turner. Again, not surprised. That's a move I expected them to make once the season ended. Another guy who availability was important. He wasn't healthy towards the end of the year. He played not healthy in the divisional round. Probably shouldn't have played. Probably should have put Yash Nijman at left tackle instead of Billy Turner. But, Packers did what they did, put a hobbled player at left tackle, and they're designating it that he failed the physical is how they're designating it for Billy Turner. And they also re-signed Campbell, which is huge. He was a huge addition to this Packer defense. He had a missed tackle percentage of 2%, one of the tops in the NFL. Sure tackler, made plays all over the field, underrated in coverage. And he's a player that definitely earned his money. And his cap hit in this season is a pedestrian $4.2 million. That's his cap hit this year. That's a steal for the production you got from him. I've heard that Rasul Douglas is likely potentially coming back as well. But with the move, and then tendered Alan Lazard at too, so he'll be due about just under $4 million this year. And the Packers are still about $7 million over the cap. They still have some work to do, but that work can easily be done. They could potentially release Randall Cobb, free $6 million of that $7 million, and then bring him back at a more team-friendly, cap-friendly deal later on in the week. That's one suggestion I've heard. As of now, they're not touching Mason Crosby's contract, but they can always restructure his contract. Adrian Amos, they can restructure or they can either restructure or extend. They can extend Jair Alexander to free up some money. They can restructure Mercedes Lewis to free up some money. And then Dean Lowry, they can restructure or release. And then the big thing is they can figure out contract with Devontae. Devontae is a $20 million cap number, the $20 million hit against the cap right now. If they can renegotiate and extend Devontae, there's a good chance they can cut that cap number in 2022 in half. And then just have the contract escalate from there. So still moves to be made, but I trust in Gutekunst and I trust in Russ Ball that they're going to get done what they need to do. And the Packers, they're going to be a competitive team in 2022. Other news around the NFL, Tom Brady's deciding he wants to play again. I didn't expect Tom Brady to come back, but I also can't say I'm not surprised that Tom Brady decided to come back. I know he gave some spiel about still having some unfinished business when he's a guy that has won 7 Super Bowls. So I don't buy that it's the unfinished business piece. I just think he has such a fire, such a passion for the sport, for the NFL, for the game of football. I think Tom Brady has a hard time hanging it up. I think he has a hard time stating that I'm done playing, I want to retire. You see that. You saw that with Brett Favre in Green Bay, where he was constantly, will I, won't I? It's a tough decision. And, people were criticizing Rodgers for dragging out this decision for so long. Tom Brady's decide shortly after the Super Bowl, actually, I think it was the same weekend as the Super Bowl, that he was retiring. maybe he made the decision too quick. Maybe he didn't think it all the way through, and maybe he should have. If he would have thought about it more and waited, we're not having this rolling of our eyes and disgust at Tom Brady for deciding to come back. According to Pat McAfee, Aaron Rodgers strongly considered retirement. He strongly thought about hanging it up and retiring. Instead, he wanted to think it over and really decide what he truly wanted to do, and ended up being a contract extension. I don't fault Tom Brady for wanting to play again. It's fun to poke fun at him, but ultimately, Tom Brady's a competitor, and guys struggle when they retire because they're missing something in their life, and he's been playing professional football for over 20 years. So Kirk Cousins got a new contract, which the contract's absolutely ridiculous to me. For an average quarterback, he's a definition of average. His win-loss percentage is 500, roughly. He has 2 ties mixed in there. I think he's like 59, 59, and 2. That is Kirk Cousins' career winning record, 59, 59, and 2. And I know you can argue wins aren't a quarterback stat, but Kirk Cousins doesn't do anything sexy. He doesn't do anything that's going to blow the doors off the place. He's inconsistent. He's just an average player. He's average player at best. But yet he keeps getting these guaranteed contracts for ridiculous amounts of money. At the end of this current deal, he's going to have $230 million in career earnings. And good job to him. Him and his agent deserve a ton of credit for constantly getting people to continue to pay him money to be an average quarterback. He puts up some numbers. I'm not going to lie. He does put up some numbers, but he's not going to win you any games. He may lose you some games, but he's definitely not going to win you games. I think he's won 1 playoff game in his career, and he struggles in national televised games, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. He struggles. And the other things you're seeing right now is a lot of stupid money being thrown around. And the Jaguars fit that component right now. And I know Jacksonville has money to spend, and they have a lot of work to do to try to put together a winning product. And Doug Peterson wants to try to win sooner rather than later. But to give Kristen Kirk a 4-year, $72 million contract that includes $37 million fully guaranteed and has a maximum value of a contract of $84 million, being paid, I think it's $21 or $22 million per year for a guy that has been nothing better than a number 3 wide receiver in his career at this point. And I know Arizona with Hopkins, it's hard to get a lot of targets your way, but before Hopkins got there, he's a guy that was inconsistent. He would have a big game and then go weeks before having another game. He's the definition of inconsistent. Zay Jones, 3-year, $24 million contract with a max value of 30. That's a lot of money for him. Cam Robinson received the franchise tag. That's a lot of money to Cam Robinson. And then Brandon Schaaf, 3-year, $49.5 million deal that includes $30 million guaranteed and $33 in the first 2 years of the deal. He's a guy that's hurt a lot. So you're really depending and throwing a lot of money to a guy that is hurt often. Aside from Russell Wilson trade, the Denver Broncos, 5-year, $70 million, $28 million guaranteed to Randy Gregory, defensive end from the Cowboys. And it's kind of funny. The Cowboys thought they had a deal in place. They're ready to announce it. Next thing you know, just kidding. He's signing with the Broncos now. And obviously none of these are done deals until tomorrow after the start of the league year. DJ Jones, 3-year, $30 million. Again, Broncos throwing a lot of money around. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mitch Trubisky, a 2-year, $14.25 million contract with up to $27 million with incentive. That's a great deal. Basically $7 million a year for 2 years with some escalators that can make it higher. He's a guy that people had a lot of positive things to say about during his time in Buffalo. he's very limited quarterback, but he's kind of what Pittsburgh was looking for, a guy that can move the pocket, can stretch the pocket, a guy that can run a little bit. And he's a guy that can possibly help the Steelers make the playoffs and be competitive. He made the playoffs twice in Chicago. Cleveland Browns got Amari Cooper in a trade. Dallas trying to clear cap space left and right. They're sending a lot of money away. And unfortunately for Dallas, the reason why they're in this situation where they got to let a player like Amari Cooper go because they gave a big contract to Ezekiel Elliott. And unfortunately, they cannot get out of the contract yet. So they got to let guys like Amari Cooper go. But here's what you're going to see. I just gave you some examples. Here's what you're going to see in the first few days of free agency. A lot of stupid money being thrown around. Teams with money to burn are going to throw a lot of money all over the place to bring guys in. And guess what? In 2 to 3 years, a number of these guys are going to be free agents all over again, and the cycle is going to continue, mainly because, as I said a couple years ago, last year, when it came to hiring coaches, bad teams stay bad for a reason. If you want to be a consistent winner in the NFL, you look at what New England's done. You look at what Green Bay has done. You have to build. The big thing is draft and develop. Draft and develop your own guys, and then try to hit in the free agency when it's time. Patriots last year tried to hit in free agency, and they made the playoffs probably a year earlier than they thought. The Packers are a perennial playoff team year after year after year, and they got a pretty damn good roster. Now, from their spending spree 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they brought in the Smith brothers, Adrian Amos and Billy Turner. Only Amos and Preston Smith are left. But that's what happens. You throw a lot of money out there, and it doesn't work out, and you got to move on and try it again. So before I jump to the NCAA tournament and give you my thoughts on teams I think have a legit shot to win, Milwaukee Brewers signed one of my favorite non-Brewer players. First of all, spring training set to start on Friday, 3:05 against the Dodgers. Game can be heard on 620 WTMJ. Same with the game on Sunday. And Andrew McCutchen, one of my favorite non-Brewer players over the years. Andrew McCutchen signed a 1-year deal with the Brewers, and to me, that's a great deal. He's a guy that can play all 3 outfield spots. He can be your DH. He can allow Lorenzo Cain to have some days off, Christian Yelich to have days off and play DH. And you have a outfield rotation of Lorenzo Cain, Hunter Renfroe, McCutchen, Tyrone Taylor, Yelich. Those guys, you can rotate guys into the DH and in the outfield, and you got a lot of versatility out there. And at the end of the day, David Stearns and Craig Counsell love their versatility, and that's why you don't see the Brewers sign a guy. As much as I would have liked Nelson Cruz, and the Brewers were tied to Nelson Cruz is strictly a DH and a DH only. And as I mentioned, they like versatility. And with Andrew McCutchen, you have a guy, yes, he's older, but he can play 3 different outfield positions in DH. Tyrone Taylor can play all 3 outfield positions. Yelich can play both corners. Lorenzo Cain can play all 3. Luis Urias can play all 4 infield spots. Colton Wong can play second in DH. Willie Adames, shortstop in DH. First base is really the one glaring hole that the Brewers have currently with their team, and I think they probably will make another move. Starting rotation is what it is. You got defending Cy Young winner, and you have other potential another potential Cy Young guy in Brandon Woodworth and Freddie Peralta. And you got 2 great bullpen arms and Devin Williams if he doesn't punch a wall, and Josh Hader. So speaking of the Brewers, the playoff odds from Fangraphs.com came out. They project the Brewers at 90.9 wins, 77.1 loss, 73.3% chance to win the division, 36% chance to clinch a bye, 85.9% chance to make the playoffs, and a 7.6% chance to win the World Series. The only teams in the NL that have a higher percentage are your defending World Series champs, Atlanta Braves, and the NL West, Los Angeles Dodgers. The only teams in the NL that have a higher percentage of winning the World Series. And also, the Dodgers are the only team that have a higher chance of making the playoffs than the Brewers. The Dodgers are at 95.7, Brewers at 85.9, Braves are at 84.8. And the Reds are basically blowing it up. The Cubs haven't really done much. The Pirates are the Pirates, so it's going to come down to the Brewers and the Cardinals. And I'm going to have a full, probably next week or the week after, a full Brewer preview where I'm going to go more in depth about the positions and whatnot. And in the AL, you got Houston with a 10.3% chance to win the World Series, and the Blue Jays at a 12% chance, and the Yankees at a 9.4% chance. And those are the only teams in the AL with a higher percent chance at this point to win the World Series. I'm not saying the Brewers are going to win the World Series, but I'm saying as the Brewers have a pretty solid team in place once again, and I don't see any reason why the Brewers won't make the playoffs and make a push. It's all going to come down to if guys can repeat performances they had last year and potentially Yelich bounce back from what they've done the last couple of years. So NCAA tournament time is underway, and I'm just grabbing my iPad quick because I have the brackets on my iPad. I did not memorize the brackets, so I do need to look at that. But Thursday's action, you have Colorado State, Michigan. For that, if I'm picking in that one, I'm going Colorado State. Providence and South Dakota State, I'm going Providence. Memphis and Boise State, I got to go Memphis. I think Memphis is just the better team, even though they're the 9th seed. I think Baylor, you got to go Baylor. And if you're picking a team to win it all, Baylor is probably at the top of the list. They're defending champions. They were really good last year, really good this year, and they have a really good shot at repeating. Tennessee and Longwood, got to go Tennessee. Iowa and Richmond. Number 5 Iowa, number 12 Richmond. You always have a 12 upsetting a 5. It seems every year in the NCAA tournament. That's a perfect one where you could see it happen. I would personally go Richmond over Iowa. Iowa got hot in the Big Ten tournament, but I could, they can cool off. They were living by the 3 in the Big Ten tournament. They can go ice cold from 3 quite easily. We've seen teams go ice cold. You got Gonzaga and Georgia State. Gonzaga wins that game easily, and Gonzaga, another team, they were runners up last year. They're a team you can pencil in as potential national champions. They're a very solid squad. Duke, I think, would be their biggest challenge in their region of going back to the national championship game or going back to the Final Four, to get a chance to go to the national championship game. North Carolina and Marquette. Could this be the year that Marquette finally wins an NCAA tournament game? It's been a number of years, but they got a tough draw with North Carolina. And if they beat North Carolina, then they get a 1 seed. I think North Carolina wins that game. That's a toss-up to me. To me, flip a coin. That game could go either direction. New Mexico State and Connecticut, another 12-5 matchup. I just think Connecticut is going to roll easily in that one. Kentucky and St. Peter's on Thursday. Kentucky, easily. The 5 seed St. Mary's versus the to-be-determined 12 seed. I think St. Mary's wins that one quite easily. They're a very solid team, very underrated team. They did beat Gonzaga, one or two teams to beat Gonzaga this year, Duke being another one. Creighton and San Diego State, 8-9 matchup. I got to go San Diego State in that one. Arkansas and Vermont. I'm going to go Arkansas. Murray State and San Francisco. I'm sure Marquette fans are quite happy they're not playing Murray State. A couple years back, John Morant, Murray State knocked out Marquette, but I think Murray State wins that one. Akron and UCLA. Got to go UCLA. And Kansas versus to be determined. Kansas is going to win that one easily. So to recap your games on Thursday, Colorado State, Providence, Memphis, Baylor, Tennessee, Richmond, Gonzaga, UNC, Kentucky, UConn, St. Mary's, San Diego State, Murray State, Arkansas, UCLA, and Kansas. So that's going to be your Thursday games and winners. Friday, you got Loyola, Sister Jean Loyola versus Ohio State. I'm going to go Loyola Chicago on that one. They're a team that just always seems to be a tough out in the NCAA tournament every year. And Ohio State's a team that's been very inconsistent as the 7th. Auburn versus JSU. Going to go Auburn easily. Texas Tech and Montana State. Go Texas Tech. Yale and Purdue. Go Purdue in that one. Villanova and Delaware. Villanova easily. Villanova be my third team. I've named 2 so far that I think have a very high probability of winning it all. Add Villanova to that list. USC versus Miami. I think USC wins that one. Alabama versus to be determined. It's always tough when you don't know who your opponent's going to be, and games that are being played so far. Texas Southern beat Texas A&M CC. You're also going to have Indiana and Wyoming. So then tomorrow you got Bryant and Wright State for 16, and then you got to have Notre Dame and Rutgers. So that to be determined for Alabama is going to be Notre Dame or Rutgers, and I think Alabama loses in the first round to whoever wins that playing game. Texas and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a hot team. It's very hard not to go with the hot team in the tournament. They made a big run in the ACC tournament, but I think their magic carpet ride ends against Texas. Illinois beats Chattanooga. Duke wins on Friday. Iowa State beats LSU, being played in Pfizer Forum, 6:20 first tip. Arizona wins their game easy. I don't even know who their opponent is yet, but they're going to win. UAB and Houston is going to be a great game. I think that's another potential 12-5 upset. I think Houston wins it close, probably a buzzer beater. I just don't think UAB has enough to get over the top there. I got Davidson upsetting Michigan State. Michigan State's not been playing that well as of late. Wisconsin beats Colgate, 850 jump ball at Pfizer Forum. And I think Seton Hall beats TCU. So to recap that one, you got Seton Hall, Wisconsin, Davidson, Houston, Iowa State, Arizona, Duke, Illinois, the winner of Rutgers and Notre Dame. Then you have Texas, USC, and Villanova, Purdue, and Texas Tech. Your safest bet, if you want to predict a team that's going to win it all, your safest bets are going to be Baylor, Gonzaga, Villanova, Arizona, and Duke. Those are going to be your best bets to win it all. If you're looking for a higher seed that has a chance to make a big Cinderella run, I don't see it this year. I think Arkansas could make a Final Four. They're a pretty solid team this year. UCLA as the 4th seed could, but I don't think you see a seed higher than 4 make a big run. And I think Wisconsin has a big, great shot of getting to at least the Elite 8 just for the right to play for the Final Four. They have a pretty good pairing in their bracket. Jumping on to the women's tournament, if you're looking for upsets, I'm going to tell you right now, probably not going to have a lot that happens. Um, they have their play-in games, but I'm going to jump straight to the tournament Friday matchups. Miami beats South Florida. Colorado beats Creighton. South Carolina beats whoever they play. South Carolina in the women's NCAA tournament is a team that's likely going to be playing on the final day. Good shot to win it all. Mississippi wins. Virginia Tech wins. Nebraska wins. Iowa wins. Iowa is a team that has a good shot of running it and playing Final Four, and it's in the championship game. Baylor beats Hawaii. Baylor's another one that has a really high shot probability rate of playing in the championship round. You got Maryland going to win on Friday, Utah, Georgia, and Louisville, Kansas, and Texas, Stanford, and Iowa State. So out of the games on Friday, if you want to pick a team in the women's bracket that has a really good shot at going to the championship round, Stanford, Iowa State, Texas, Louisville, Iowa, South Carolina. All pretty solid shots. South Carolina being the top shot, with Baylor being a close 2, Stanford being a close 3. In the Saturday games, Washington State will be Kansas State. UConn will beat Mercer. UConn is now that they're healthy. There probably would have been a 1 seed if their best player doesn't get hurt, miss a good chunk of games. They're a team that can easily be playing for the championship. BYU will beat Villanova. Indiana will beat Charlotte. Ohio State will win. North Carolina State, another team that has a good shot. Tennessee has a great shot. Michigan will win. UCF, Kentucky, Oregon, LSU, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Arizona. They're all going to be your first round or technically second round winners in the women's field. Best chance to win it all in your Saturday games would be UConn, LSU, Oregon, and probably North Carolina State. So there you have it. That's my best bets for winning Thursday, Friday, Saturday in the men's and the women's tournaments. We'll see how accurate I am on Monday and following week. With that said, I appreciate you all watching, listening to the show, and I will get back at you next week. Talk the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament and more. Probably a lot of free agent frenzy going on next week. So with that, I will get back at you later.